Today I'm going to demonstrate an easy formula for healthy weight loss soups. We will cook an Indian chickpea lentil soup and a savory beef and barley soup as examples from my formula. When looking for soups for weight loss, I bet you're looking all over the net to collect recipes. Well, I've made it easy for you with this super easy formula that includes macros for weight loss and several ingredients to choose from. This easy cooking process is also very similar for all of the soups. I will also tell you about some research-backed weight loss ingredients that we will be adding to our soups. Stay tuned for the formula breakdown and those weight loss boosters. For our first weight loss soup example, we're gonna do a plant-based soup. I chose to use red potatoes, onion, carrots, red pepper, and some diced tomatoes. But there's a lot of different vegetables you can choose to use, which is gonna be part of my formula. I will expand on that here in a few minutes. We're gonna peel our potatoes and our onion. We are aiming to do about 4 cups of vegetables because I'm gonna make a soup with 4 different servings. And for our formula, we're gonna want a cup of vegetables at least per serving. I'm just estimating this amount because really you can have as much vegetables as you want. Now the potatoes are counted as a carbohydrate, but I wanted to go ahead and get those peeled. Seeds and the stem out of the bell pepper. Now I'd suggest using the whole onion. It really gives the soup an excellent flavor. For all these different variations of weight loss soups that I'm going to explain to you here in a few minutes, I suggest using onion with all of them. Ooh, made it through that without crying. All right, and for all of these different soups, I do recommend using some fresh garlic. You're gonna wanna use about 2 to 4 garlic cloves for our 4-serving soup that we're gonna make. And there's actually some evidence that garlic can help you with weight loss as well, which is another reason that I suggest putting garlic in all of the different variations of soup that you can make based off my formula. All right, then we're gonna wanna mince that garlic, get the rough ends off of it. I'm gonna be using the pressure cooker for this soup because we've got some dried beans and it would otherwise take a really long time to cook dried beans and it would make everything else in the soup mushy. Oil to my Instant Pot, and we're gonna saute that until our onions are becoming translucent. You don't want them to be super translucent and mushy, but we're gonna go ahead and, just get everything started a little bit. It's gonna help bring out the flavor in these vegetables in our soup. Also, make sure to add your garlic. For our fully plant-based recipe, tofu or beans are gonna be our main source of protein. And you can choose any of the beans that I have listed for my formula. We'll go over that in a little bit. But for this soup, I'm gonna use lentils and chickpeas. For our fully plant-based protein, we're gonna do roughly a cup of cooked beans per serving. This is gonna ensure that you get a good amount of protein in your soup, which is gonna help you with weight loss. Beans are also incredibly good for you. Now you're gonna wanna rinse your beans just to get off the contaminants. Since I'm doing dry here and chickpeas and lentils double to a little bit more than double in volume when you cook them, I'm gonna do just under 2 cups of the lentils and chickpeas. So something I've learned about lentils is that in my strainer, they tend to fall through there. So I'm gonna put a napkin at the bottom just to ensure that they don't fall into my sink when I'm rinsing them. Give those a good rinse. All right, and as you're sauteing those vegetables, you'll want to stir them every now and then. All right, and so for the carbohydrate in this soup, I chose to use potatoes. I'm just going to dice it, and you wanna do roughly 2 cups for 4 servings because we're gonna want ½ cup of complex carbohydrates per serving. You wanna leave this in pretty thick chunks since we're cooking the beans in there too. It's gonna cook for a little while and we don't want our potatoes to get too mushy or turn into a creamy potato soup. There's nothing wrong with that if that's the soup you're going for, but that is not the soup that we're going for today. Now that we have everything prepped, I'm gonna go ahead and throw all the other ingredients into the pot. First, I'm gonna go ahead and throw these potatoes in there. And of course, your saute settings should be off at this point. Throw in your lentils and chickpeas. We're gonna pour in there 4 cups of vegetable broth. Low sodium is best. And since we're cooking dried beans, I'm gonna go ahead and throw in a couple more cups of vegetable broth because it's gonna need to soak up a lot of that vegetable broth to cook. I'm gonna add a can of diced tomatoes. Now this addition might sound a little weird, but we're gonna add a few tablespoons of ground flax. The reason for that is that having some healthy fats in the soup is gonna help keep you satiated. And we want about 1 tablespoon of healthy fat for each serving in our soup. Since we've already put a tablespoon of olive oil in there, we already have 1 serving of healthy fats. So I'm gonna go ahead and add 3 tablespoons of ground flax. All right, and finally we're gonna add our spice blend. And today I chose to do the Indian spice blend. And this blend is chock full of weight loss boosters. I put that in quotes because all of these have a varying level of evidence as to whether they actually help with weight loss. However, it can't hurt, and seasonings are really good for you regardless. So I've already made this seasoning blend. You can see the amounts down in the description. We are using ground turmeric, which is one of our weight loss boosters, as well as an excellent anti-inflammatory, and that's proven. We're gonna add cumin, which is also a potential weight loss booster, fenugreek, which is also a potential weight loss booster, and you might have to go find this at your Whole Food store. I was not able to find it at my grocery store down the street. We're gonna have coriander, we're gonna have cloves, curry, cinnamon, which is also a weight loss booster, and ginger, which is also a weight loss booster. Add the Indian seasoning blend to the pressure cooker. Add just a touch of salt if you'd like. You can adjust this to taste once it's finished. Putting like a 1/4 teaspoon in there. Add a little bit of black pepper. This is also a potential weight loss booster. And I'm gonna do about 1/2 teaspoon. Now put the lid on and set it to sealing. Okay, we're gonna wanna set the time on the pressure cooker to cook as long as it would take for the ingredient in there that's gonna take the longest. So in this recipe, it's gonna be the dried beans. And if you're already using cooked beans and perhaps a raw meat, then you're gonna wanna cook it as long as it takes to cook that meat. Now, if you're throwing everything in there cooked, then it really just needs to simmer a bit to assimilate all of those flavors. So for this variation of the healthy weight loss soup formula, we're gonna put this on high pressure for 30 minutes. While that's pressure cooking, I wanna tell you a little bit about why this easy soup formula is great for weight loss. Soup is potentially great for weight loss because it's warm and filling. It's filling because it has a lot of volume. It's also gonna be filling because of the macro split that we have in this soup. Finally, the last reason that soup is filling is because it takes a little longer for you to eat, and that gives your brain a little bit more time to realize that you're full. So the formula for this soup is to add the right amount of protein, complex carbohydrates, vegetables, and healthy fat. For each serving, you're gonna wanna roughly add 3 ounces of lean meat or a cup of beans. Both have excellent protein. And then you're gonna wanna add 1/2 cup of complex carbohydrates. Each serving should also have a tablespoon of healthy fats and at least 1 fistful of vegetables. I made this formula super easy for you because I came up with some delicious additions for each of the macro categories. See below for the different ideas that I have come up with for you. And I also have a really handy infographic that you can see in the description as well. All right, so our soup is finished. And oh my God, does this look delicious. It smells so good. So you can add more salt and pepper if you think it's warranted. Somehow mine turned out perfect. You can add more broth if you want it to be a little more soupy. Otherwise, you have a fully plant-based, weight loss conducive, healthy soup. All right, so for our meat eaters and traditionalists, we're gonna do a beef and barley soup. Now you'll wanna select the leanest cut of beef that will go in a soup, and There's two different types of beef that go well in stews and soups, and that's your shoulder area of the cow and their bottom round, or their butt side. And the reason why those are better in stews is that they have more collagen in that part of the body, which I can't really explain the science very well, but it's gonna hold that flavor and that tenderness better than other parts of the cow. Well, the bottom round is gonna be the leanest cut. So we're using bottom round. And again, we're gonna do 4 servings like the last soup. And for the protein, you're gonna want about 3 ounces per serving. And so this is easy because that's a pound of bottom round. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna prep the vegetables for this soup. Again, you can choose any of the vegetables on the list in the description, but for this one, I chose to use carrots, onion, celery. Of course, I'm also gonna dice up some garlic to put in there as well. All right, now we'll chop a little bit of cabbage. So I'm just gonna go ahead and chop some, and I'll put it off to the side, and then we can get started with these veggies. Right, now I'm gonna get some olive oil heated in a pot. All right, and for this soup, I'm just gonna go ahead and use a large pan. Okay, so I'm gonna put about a tablespoon of olive oil in here, and I'm gonna get that heated. Since I'm not quite certain that this beef is gonna shred within the 30 minutes that we'll be cooking this soup, I'm gonna go ahead and dice up the bottom round roast. And in this case, it's good that we got it sliced. Okay, and once your oil is hot, we're gonna throw the bottom roast into the pan so that we can brown it a little bit. Be careful not to overheat your olive oil because it has a low smoke point. All right, once your beef is browned a little bit, we're gonna temporarily remove it from the pan so that we can saute our vegetables. Now add another tablespoon of olive oil to the pan. And now you're gonna wanna add in all the vegetables except for the cabbage. Now that our veggies have sauteed for a bit and the onions are partially translucent, we're gonna go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients. I'm actually pretty excited to use this bone broth in the soup. Bone broth has a lot more flavor than your broth, and this one contains a lot of collagen from being simmered with those bones. You should really check out this brand. It's Kettle and Fire. You can check them out in the link in the description. I'm going to add all 4 cups of this bone broth and an additional 2 cups of vegetable broth to allow the barley to have some liquid to cook and expand. Next, we're gonna add barley and peas. Both are classified as carbohydrates here. For the formula, each serving should contain a ½ cup of complex carbohydrates, or 2 cups for the 4 servings we're making in this soup. Since we are using 2 different types of carbs, we're gonna split that measurement down the middle for each of them, adding 1 cup of peas and 1 cup of barley to our soup. Since we are making pearled barley from dry, keep in mind that it triples in volume when cooked. So to get to 1 cup barley, we're gonna add 1/3 cup dried pearled barley. Add the beef back into the pan, add the cabbage. Of the many seasoning blends that you can choose from for our beef and barley soup, we're gonna go with the Savory blend here. Again, see down in the comments for all the amounts for the seasoning blends. So in addition to the garlic, salt, and pepper, we are adding thyme, parsley, bay leaf, and balsamic vinegar, which is a weight loss booster. Now bring the soup to a simmer. All right, so I've had this beef and barley soup simmering for the last 55 minutes. It really could have been pulled out at about 30 minutes, but I wanted to tenderize that meat just a little bit more. It is a lean meat, so it's gonna be just a little rough unless you simmer it even longer than 55 minutes. Remember though, if you continue to simmer it, everything else is also gonna cook more, and eventually those vegetables are gonna get mushy. Right now, this soup looks amazing. I did add a little bit more broth to it because it started to look more like a stew, and it still looks a little bit like a stew, but that's because we have so many filling vegetables in there. Again, go ahead and add more salt, pepper, and broth if you would like. And this just looks amazing. So tasty, and it smells so yummy and savory. I know you're really gonna enjoy this soup if you decide to go with my example. All right, so that's it. There are our 2 example soups that you can put together from the soup weight loss formula. Please show my channel a little love by commenting, liking, and sharing this video. This also helps further my cause to help end the obesity crisis. I hope to see you guys soon.